Well, thank you very much and good afternoon. Welcome to Community Comment. Our guests on Community Comment today are with Dodge County Emergency Management. We want to welcome into the conversation Deputy Director of Emergency Management, Joe Meagher, and Director Amy Nehls. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Good morning, Craig. Thanks for having us.
And just a quick programming note here. This is a pre-recorded conversation from this past Wednesday. Today is Monday, and we don't anticipate, hopefully a lot changing as it relates to the content that we're going to be talking about today between now and then. But just want to make sure our listeners are aware of that. It's so good to have you guys here on the program. It seems like it's been a year or two at least since we've had a chance to sit down and talk with you guys at this time of year, when we always have you in to talk about Tornado and Severe Weather Awareness Week, which is upon us here in the month of April. But before we get into talk about the weather, I was just hoping to touch base with you guys in general. It's like I said, it's been a year. We've got this pandemic situation, hopefully light at the end of the tunnel going on here. But how has everything been in an emergency management perspective as it relates to everything that's been going on?
Well, as you can see, our world has had a lot of changes this year too. Last year we missed our interview with you, and this year we're doing it via virtually. So from our office to your office. Things have been busy. We've been assisting public health. We spent a lot of time working initially on personal protective equipment because there were shortages. So getting our responders personal protective equipment so they could continue to do their jobs. Working with other places that needed emergent equipment or PPE, like nursing homes and places like that due to the shortages. Then we moved into working on and doing testing, community testing. We still have a site over in Beaver Dam that runs every Monday from 11 to 5 at the old Bassett Furniture location. And then we also are assisting public health some days with their vaccine clinics, which have been well received and are very busy.
Excellent, very good. And have you guys had the opportunity to get a vaccine yet?
We have, yes.
Okay.
We were in some of the first rounds as responders. So we both have had both doses of vaccine.
Excellent, very good. And any advice to folks out there who haven't gotten it yet, or any insight, any tricks that you were able to pick up with your experience? Drink plenty of water, avoid exercise. I think those are the two common things I've heard.
I wish that would have been avoid exercise would have been a recommendation. That would have been a good one. No recommendations. We are starting to see the Johnson & Johnson come out, which is a 1-dose vaccine. And I know that this coming Saturday, which will be held before our interview airs, that they are having a special clinic for that. So people should watch the website for updates if they're interested in getting vaccines and call public health. But having the new 1-dose vaccine will be very nice and very helpful.
Excellent. Very good. Well, let's turn our attention to the weather. And April is we've got the month of April Tornado and Severe Weather Awareness Week, which is the what is that? That is the week of is it the 12th or the 19th?
12th through the 16th.
12th through the 16th. So we are airing this program, even though it's pre-recorded on the first day of Severe Weather Awareness Week. What do we want to keep in mind, especially at this time of year, guys?
I guess just throughout the week, we need to do our usual practice, our family plans and work plans, school plans, all that stuff, because it's going to be upon us quickly. It seems like even through the pandemic, things have moved pretty quick. So the weather's going to be here before we know it.
As nice as the weather is right now, currently, there is every month there is a chance for tornadoes. Last year, not last year, but a few years ago, on record, there had only been tornadoes in 11 out of 12 months. Well, I think about 5 or 8 years ago, that changed and we experienced the January tornado. So every month there is a possibility of tornadoes in Wisconsin. And as the weather's changing and getting nicer out, we always need to be aware of the weather. Something people need to think about is a family plan to what is your plan in case of severe weather? even a family emergency plan in any type of emergency. How are you going to contact each other? Where are you going to go? What are emergency numbers? What do you have in your preparedness kit? There's a lot of things out on readywisconsin.gov that have great information on how to prepare a kit and some of those things to get families ready for that constant readiness for any type of emergency.
What do you guys?
All types of emergencies throughout in Wisconsin and throughout our careers. So
I imagine it doesn't just have to be weather related. They're as we see with the pandemic. If we had the foresight to keep paper products or something like that, that
was a new one for all of us,
right? But that is something that I would think you should probably keep in mind what you want to have in that emergency pack. What do you guys recommend?
Well, sometimes extra food, extra water, enough for each family member for several days. Stuff for your pets. We always talk about, it used to be the 3 Ps and now we've changed it to the 4 Ps: pills, pets, purses, and now phones. Because everybody has all their personal information on their phones, right? And phone numbers. I don't know how many people remember people's phone numbers anymore. So you have to have your phone with you also. But have enough medication on hand to have extra. Have your purse, or ladies, gentlemen, your wallet that might have some extra cash in it, some of your license and identification. Now your phones, which would have your contact information, may have your insurance information, and also have, if you have pets, have enough food, and if they have meds or anything else that they need, have that also.
Our past experience in cell phone chargers also, it's kind of our lifeline. And when we get a large number of people, we don't have enough chargers. So have something for your vehicle charger, an in-the-wall charger, have that kind of extra in your case. Seems like a lot of people don't think of that.
Yeah, good things
For
to
an
keep
extra
in mind.
battery charger.
Mhm. Yeah. And even if you could get one of those portable charging units, I imagine that's probably not a bad thing to have around as well. It doesn't fit into the 4 Ps thing, but it's closely
It can
related
fit
to
in
that
your
phone.
purse.
That's a good point.
Besides a purse that I carry, it can fit.
Right. So so that's the kind of thing that you want, the pills, the pets, the purses, the phones. That's what you want to be able to have at a moment's notice and ready to go. Is there something that we should keep in a basement? I know if a tornado comes, a lot of times if you have a basement, you want to move to a lower part of your home or something like that, or a more sturdy part of your home, or find somebody that has a basement if you don't have a situation like that. Is that separate kit something that you want to keep in mind as well, and what should you put in there?
Sure. A separate kit in a safe place in your basement. Again, food, non-perishable food, drinking water, probably blankets or something to cover yourself with. Also, again, when you go down to that location, make sure you take your pills, your pets, your purses, and your phones. Flashlights, possibly a whistle or something that you can call for help with. And when I say flashlights, I mean actual traditional flashlights with batteries in them, because everybody nowadays uses your cell phones. And again, if you don't have your charger, that tends to be a problem. You can have things, if you have infants or small children, you might need diapers down there. You might need formula, things to keep your kids busy. That's what we talked to the schools about too. So, you might have stuff downstairs, crayons, paper, playing cards, things that are appropriate to the ages in your family.
And having something in a car probably isn't a bad idea either. A lot of the same things, but you maybe want to pack a little more economically.
A lot of same things in your car. Obviously, you're going to have blankets in your car. You're going to have non-perishables. You're going to have water, something you can keep in your trunk. Again, with the chargers, always keep your vehicles at least half full is a good idea. That was a lesson I learned long ago from my dad. So especially nowadays, you don't know when you might have to evacuate. We don't know what's happening. A lot of people hit the gas stations right away. So
yeah, you start
that little extra bit of cash, because you don't know. Usually we don't have problems with ATM machines and things like that, but we don't know if it's some type of power outage. So just have some extra cash with you.
Yeah, that tip about the
identification.
Identification.
So
That tip.
your license, your insurance cards, that kind of information, for your vehicles, for your health insurance.
Yeah. And make sure that gas tank has got a little bit of gas in it, at least a halfway type of gas. That is such good advice, and one that I don't think we've really hit hard enough here over the years when we talk about Emergency Preparedness Week. There's a situation at the gas stations and those lines are a mile long. You're going to be happy that you had filled up.
Yeah.
So some good things to keep in mind here as we begin Tornado and Severe Weather Awareness Week here in Wisconsin with the folks from Dodge County Emergency Management. So on Thursday, the plan is to have a kind of more of an active drill as part of Tornado and Severe Weather Awareness Week. What is Thursday look like?
So actually it's 2 drills. There is an afternoon drill and there is an evening drill that started 2 or 3 years ago. So it gives everybody the opportunity. It gives you the opportunity to practice it hopefully at home and at work and where you are at the time. So to participate in both of them, they're at
1:45 and 6:45. Give you an
Okay.
opportunity to do it while you're at school or work, and then also when you're at home with your family.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the trick, right? To walk through this kind of thing with your family, get the kids involved.
Correct.
we encourage the schools and the businesses to also go through the process wherever they are. Schools obviously practice in the afternoon. Our county buildings here practice. We encourage the businesses to practice. Basically, so the employees know what to do. The more that you practice these things, the muscle memory gets used to it. You recognize where you're going to go. There's less panic. There's less people upset about it because it becomes something that we're used to. And that's why we started the evening drill too, for people that work second shift or people to practice it at home with their families.
Practice an evacuation plan with your coworkers. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Know the points of exit. I just had a conversation with Beaver Dam Fire Chief, outgoing Beaver Dam Fire Chief Alan Mannell, and he had made the remark that whenever he enters a building, he knows where all the exits are immediately, and that kind of struck me as something that I hadn't done necessarily, but now that kind of resonates with me when I go somewhere. Like, well, emergency management officials and other fire officials are always knowing where the exits are. That's probably not a bad piece of advice.
That's a first responder trick that we do teach a lot during our active shooter and some of the other drills we do also. You'll find every law enforcement officer does that. Nowadays, your fire departments do it. Yes, we as emergency management do it. Know where all your exits are. For this week's drill, you need to know where your lockdown location is in your building. Where's the safest place to go during a tornado? And then practice that with people. And if you're in a public building or if you're in a business and you don't know where to go, know that you should ask the people that work there. I mean, in the county buildings, we practice the tornado lockdown or shelter in place. And we encourage our employees, when the public is in our buildings and we have something like that, you need to look around and you need to make sure that the public that are in the building knows where to go and take them with you.
And the other thing that we found throughout some of our incidents is accountability, especially if you have more than a few people in your office. Accountability at an event is huge. There's been businesses that really strive to figure that out, because when we're trying to find that one person, you weren't sure if they showed up at work or not.
That's the first thing, the first responders that roll up on scene, that's the first thing we're going to ask you, is everyone accounted for? So to have an idea at your business, what employees are there, what employees are off site, and if you're a public location, have some idea, at least the number count of how many people might have been in that building and where they might have been. Because we'd hate to have nobody know or be able to answer the questions. The responders are often put in danger doing a search for people that we don't know if they're accounted for. And we want to protect everyone as much as possible. And we don't want to put our responders in harm's way looking for someone that we
I've seen that play out just as a news reporter at a simple residential fire. Chaos ensues if they don't know who was home from work or who was supposed to be there, who wasn't. Accountability, another great key word today. On the subject of exits, not to go back too far, but are exits always doorways?
No.
They don't have to be. Good job thinking outside the box and indicating that. I mean, you should always know when we teach some of this, we always teach at least have a secondary and a tertiary exit, but that might not be an actual doorway. It might not be a marked exit. It might be a window. It might be a doorway into another room that you can escape out of. You need to know your surroundings and need to know how to get out if something happens. And that is something we teach, knowing a secondary and tertiary way to get out, because a lot of times our muscle memory, or we get used to, people are habit creatures of habit, and they're used to going in one way and coming out the other, but we don't know if there's a fire or if there's something blocking that exit, or what the circumstances will be. So you have to sometimes know what your surroundings are and how to get out. And if you have to break a window, you have to break a window.
Yeah.
If you have to jump sometimes, you might have to jump.
Yeah. You may have some serious issues that you've got to weigh when you're put into this situation. Again, talking about Tornado and Severe Weather Awareness Week with the folks from Dodge County Emergency Management this coming Thursday, 1:45 and 6:45. That 1:45, as you mentioned, a good idea for businesses, for coworkers to talk about, for management to talk about an escape plan with their employees. That 6:45, a good time for the family to get together and work on that escape plan. I think we had a little bit of a freeze there, so I think we're back here now.
I wasn't sure if that was you or if that was us. So,
so we will try to make a note to edit that out when this re-airs. Maybe we won't.
We adapt and overcome.
Welcome to technology.
We didn't have these problems when you guys were in the studio. That 6:45 again, the family is suggested to take advantage of that one. You guys have any recommendations for introducing these scary concepts to kids?
I think a lot of kids are being introduced to this stuff, tornado warnings or lock fire drills, shelter in place, lockdown drills. All of these things are being introduced when kids are already entering school age. So as young as 4 years old, they're seeing these things. We shouldn't be afraid to talk about these things with our kids. You might use proper language depending on how old your child is, but they're seeing these things and they're learning it at school. So we need to reinforce it at home and have the same discussions and have the same types of plans. If you don't want to bring it up, just ask your kid or your kids at supper time, what did you do today? They're going to tell you, we had a fire drill, we had a tornado drill, we had a lockdown drill. All of these things are annually required. And for younger kids, if you have school age kids, then they're going to be teaching their siblings, bring the siblings along. Start early. Like I said, they're starting as early as 4K now, as long as they're in the public school system. So it's important. It's not scary to them. Once they start talking about it and doing it, it just becomes part of life at school. And it should also become part of life at home to talk about and practice these things.
Yeah. Learning, a very important thing. Speaking of learning, each year when we have you guys on to talk about Tornado and Severe Weather Awareness Week, we usually have an opportunity to preview the National Weather Service and some of their weather spotter trainer classes. It's been apparent that a lot of those public gatherings have moved to a virtual setting, and the same is the case this year. And it seems like folks might even have a greater opportunity to be able to participate in this since it is virtual.
The National Weather Service has all the dates posted for their virtual spotter trainings on their website, and then we've also shared it on the Dodge County Facebook page. There's several opportunities that you can go out. They started as early as April 1st, and the last one is May 5th. You can go onto their website and you click on the link and you watch it virtually. So you can watch it from your home. You don't have to go out and sit in an auditorium like we used to. We do miss those get-togethers and seeing everybody there. But if you're interested, go take it virtually online through the National Weather Service. They are also recording their sessions, so they'll post some of them later also.
Excellent. Very good. Hopefully by next year, we'll maybe start to see a return or a hybrid of the two models. Well,
That is all possible.
fingers crossed. So what specific types of things do you need to learn as a weather spotter? What can you give us some insight, generally speaking, into what it is that they teach you?
Well, they first of all start real basic with watches and warnings and how those work with a watch. Conditions are favorable, and they're generally issued 6 hours out to give a heads up. Then there's the warnings, which generally they're either radar based or spotter supported. And then there's generally within a small area, and it's going to happen within the next, now to 45 minutes out. The good thing to keep in mind is, always have an app on your phone or something of the sort to make sure that you're aware of the watches and warnings and when they're issued. And that can follow suit for severe thunderstorms, tornadoes, and flash floods.
So this year, we always encourage people to have the national or the weather radios at home also, but obviously we're not always at home. So like Joe said, an app on your phone that works basically off the cell towers and knows your location and will alert you. This year, the Weather Service is not setting off the weather radios, and they're not setting off certain the actual emergency alerting system. So some of the radio stations, some of the TV stations that usually have something break in and say that we're doing a test on Thursday at 1:45 and at 6:45 may not go off. In Dodge County, we do set off our sirens throughout the county, which also often does set off the radio station's alerting system. So we will be setting off, we will be hearing sirens for both in Dodge County. For us, that lets the public know that there is, this will be a test, it tests the warning system, but it also gives our spotters or our first responders, who are many of them are spotters, they also go out during an actual tornado warning, and they'll go out during the practice and the test this week too. So basically we're practicing what we actually do during an actual tornado warning.
And I think we kind of got off, we were discussing watches and warnings, but actually in the training, that's the basic that starts out. And then they move into cloud formations, which way the storms generally move, what to look for at the base of the clouds, that type of thing. And then they also go into the amount of rain over a certain amount of time, the size of hail, the strength of the winds, that type of thing, that all need to be reported to the Weather Service. And also the forms that you can send it to them in, be it Twitter, Facebook, they're on all of them. And they really do appreciate those quality reports that you can give them as they track the storms across the state.
Nowadays, it's so much easier to snap a picture if it's hailing or some of the wind damage and things like that, and send it to them via their social media platforms. Years ago, that they didn't have that. People used telephones to call in, or they waited for first responders or dispatch centers to report that. With the technology we have in our hands, we can get that information immediately.
They're going to talk a little bit about impact-based watches and warnings also, which is a new thing. And when you see the alert come out, which is generally provided to you on an app on the phone or run across the TV, they're going to provide you with really specific what you're going to see in a certain area over the certain amount of time. So they're really trying to give us as much information as they're aware of, which is being taken in by the weather spotters and being taken in by radar, and all compiled together to put that out for the impact-based warnings.
Yeah. Listeners to this radio station will know that after a weather event, whether it's snow or rain or something like that, one of the one of the announcers will, for example, say, well, Sun Prairie picked up, 1.5 inches. Lowell got, 0.6 of an inch. That's all off the National Weather Service website, and those pieces of information come from actual trained weather spotters that work with the Weather Service. So that message gets out there and is used in many different ways.
That's right. Yep.
So is it is it a long process once you start the weather spotter training course? Is this a matter of years that it takes to be able to become part of the world of weather reporting, or is it a little more reasonable time frame than that?
2 hours.
Okay.
2 hours to an expert.
Yep.
2
Probably
hours.
not an expert, but in the 2 hours, they're going to cover all that information, and they're going to cover how you can get them your up-to-date information on what's going on in your area.
We have people return year after year because you're going to pick up on the basics, and then it's going to, get you a little bit interested. You're going to go out to the Storm Prediction Center, the National Weather Service, all these websites, and do a little bit of research. And the next time you're going to go, you're going to pick up on something else. So we have repeat folks come all the time. And of course, we can't tell now that we're online. But I'm seeing numbers in the 200s just in the last 2 classes that they've had. So the numbers are good, and it's really valuable. The other thing that they'll touch on a little bit is what the Storm Prediction Center issues every day in a 24-hour period on the types of weather to expect and the marginal risk, the slight risk, the severe, the high risk of severe weather within your area. And that's really good for planning for your family. Have it pop up when you open up your browser on your computer. It shows, are you in the green? Are you in the white, which means hopefully you'll have sunshine? Are you in the green? Maybe you'll have rain. Are you in the orange? And then when you start seeing the red, then your chances of having a thunderstorm within a certain amount of miles is very high. And then they even go to another extreme where they're saying that you are going to get storms. These are going to be very severe. So it's a good planning tool for any family or anybody, any business that's interested in knowing what's going to happen over the next 24 hours.
Excellent. Very good. So it's not just the weather spotter experts. Those have been trained. We have some amateur weather experiencers out there, and now might not be a bad time to remind them some of the differences between watches and warnings here as we wind down this segment.
Okay. So a watch means be watchful. Anticipate that you may get a weather event within your area within the next 6 hours. The other is short term. The warning is a warning that it is approaching, and it should affect your area of the warning within between now and 45 minutes is kind of the benchmark that they use. And the warnings will provide information on the severity of the weather, what to expect, whether it's hail or lightning, severe lightning, heavy winds, rain, that type of thing.
Yeah. And
the tornadoes and will list possible locations that it will be hitting next. So basically a weather warning is imminent danger. There is something that is going to hit in your area imminently within a certain amount of time, usually like Joe said, 45 minutes. A watch is, like you said, just be watchful, be aware. We talked about situational awareness before, wherever you are in a building or wherever you are at a location. You also have to have situational awareness for the weather and what it's going to bring that day.
Our guests here are with Dodge County Emergency Management. You're listening to AM 1430 WBEV Beaver Dam, a Good Karma Brands radio station. And we talk about warnings and watches in the concept of tornadoes and severe thunderstorms. It's also, since spring is upon us, probably important to point out that folks are going to hear flood warnings, flash flood warnings, and that means a little something more hopefully not, but the chances are pretty good, and that means more than getting water in your basement, essentially.
That's watching the water levels of the rivers rising. That's taking into account the gauging of the rain and the amounts we're going to get. This spring has not been very wet, and the snowfall melted early. So we aren't in a real high level of awareness for flooding this year, which is a good thing. But in the past years, the water table has been high in the past. So we have had experiencing with flooding in Dodge County. And depending on the amount of rain we can get flash flooding also, which just means basically it rains so hard that the local storm sewers and roads and everything else can't keep up with draining it. And you have to be careful when you're driving and where you are because of that water and how quickly it rises. We can carry things away. So again, those things come out with the same type of warnings that tornadoes and thunderstorms come out on the same weather apps that we were talking about. And you can carry your cell phone and have an app right on it, or have the weather radio at home, watch TV, be aware. Just know that severe weather of all types can hit at any time.
Beware that standing water.
You got it.
Turn around,
Yeah.
don't drown.
You never know how deep it is. It's very difficult to determine. Never walk into it, never play in it.
Never drive
in
on it. Yeah, you don't know what's underneath it and what has happened to the surface underneath it.
You could have currents underneath the water. It might not even necessarily be the depth. It might be the movement of the water underneath that you
We
might
have
not see.
full road washouts that we don't see for days after when the water subsides.
So use your head, practice, good preparedness methods. A lot of good advice here on the program today as we wrap up this segment here during Tornado and Severe Weather Awareness Week in Wisconsin. Recap for our listeners the takeaways that you think they need from this conversation.
So the takeaway is we are currently in Tornado and Severe Weather Awareness Week in Wisconsin. There will be the annual drill on Thursday. It will be 2 drills, one at 1:45, one at 6:45. Please take the opportunity to practice your safety plan, practice your tornado/shelter-in-place plan with your family or at your workplace or at your school. Talk about these things and be prepared for it. Always have a kit and be ready. Situational awareness, where are you? What is going on in the building you're at? Where are the exits? Where are the shelter in place? And also situational awareness of the weather. What is it going to be for the day? And do we need to, are we under watch conditions, which means be watchful because something could happen. Always be prepared. There could be a weather warning at any time for any type of tornado or flooding. It all depends on the day in Wisconsin, and every day of every month, there could be a weather situation. There is no month that have not had tornadoes. We've had tornadoes in every month in Wisconsin. So just be watchful and aware of your surroundings and aware of the weather at all times.
Excellent. All right. Well, let's not let it be another year before we go between talking again. Let's get you back here before the cold weather sets in here later this year.
That sounds great.
Excellent.
Thank you, Craig.
Thanks, Greg.
Once again, with Dodge County Emergency Management, we want to thank our guests today, Emergency Management Director Amy Nehls, Deputy Director Joe Meagher. That is going to do it for today's community comment.